Hi everyone, welcome to another Warhammer 3 tier list, where today we are looking at the Lords and the Heroes of the Greenskins. Just like any other tier list we have done in the past, we got our trash tier, which don't recruit them, they're not worth their weight, please feed them to your squigs. D tier means they hit below their weight class, C tier means they perform exactly how is expected, E tier they hit above their weight, A tier you want to prioritize recruiting these Lords or Heroes, and one-man army that they pretty much take on armies by themselves. The first one on the list is the Goblin Great Shaman. And in all honesty, I do not like these characters. They are pretty useless early game. Uh, they can become a threat when they do get their big spider mount, but outside of that, they're kind of useless. I would put these guys in trash tier, but the fact that they get a big spider mount, which is above that, I still personally want to recruit these guys. Their magic is meh, but they're cheap. I guess if you need a cheap lord to lead a cheap army, maybe your go-to. But looking at his skill tree, they did touch him up recently in I believe it was like a minor patch update because they forgot to do this for him. They don't start out with any mounts, but you can't get a giant wolf, so he does get that speed, which is very nice for a spellcaster. And then he gets the Arachnarok Spider with the Spider Shrine, which just means decreasing winds of magic costs for spells and cool destruction. Uh, does get Goblin Tide, armor plus 10 for Goblin units, and melee attack for the Goblin unit for its army. Don't even try it, which is two uses of a direct damage spell. You good against characters. He can get Wolf Hearted, which is Frenzy for Wolf Rider units who are a pretty bad unit, and he himself gets Frenzy, which I would put Frenzy on a Goblin Shaman. Speaks with the spiders, recruitment cost minus 50% for spiders and rider units, poison attacks, and plus leadership for those spiders. Dust Wanderer, which is the campaign movement speed plus 5 and speed plus 10 for the Lord's army. Honestly, I'd probably just go with this one. Or honestly, the spider one isn't too bad. Madcap Mushrooms, which is an ability which is cooldowns. Cunning Influencer, which is upkeep minus 5% for the Lord's army. And wins a magic cost minus 10% for the Little Wog spells. And wins a magic reserve plus 5 capacity. He does start out with a sneaky stabbing, which is just armor piercing damage plus 5% and melee attack plus 24 for one individual. Passive ability for his magics is Hex of Winds, which is his power recharge minus 40% when he's casting. Vindictive Glare, which is basically the Goblin's version of Fireball. They will cast Fireball non-stop because it is very cheap. And then the upgraded variant is increase the number of missiles and increased armor piercing damage overall. Itchy Nuisance, which is a Hex, which is melee attack minus 24, base weapon damage minus 30% for all enemies in range. No upgrade for us. I really wish there was. This is actually a halfway decent spell. Gork will fix it, which is speed minus 45%, charge speed minus 45%, and charge bonus minus 20% for everybody in range. Once again, no overcasting on that, sadly. Does get the Night Shroud, which is just unstoppable in stalk, and then increased area of effect when you have it upgraded. Curse of the Bad Moon, which is just a vortex, and when you have that overcasted, it just increases the effect duration as well. You know, vortexes are good. Then he has a standard red line, standard blue line. Just I wouldn't recruit the guy if I can help you. Now, next is the Night Goblin War Boss. Basically, the melee variant of the Shaman. A little better, but I don't like goblins. I am very racist towards the goblins. I will put him up in D tier above the Shaman, of course. And for his skill tree, he, of course, doesn't start off with a mount. He does get a Great Cave Squig as a mount, which is very nice. Nastier Squigs, which is melee attack plus 8 for all Squig units, and a charge bonus plus 10 for all Squig units. I do love Squigs. You also get melee attack plus 6 for his Night Goblin units, and melee defense plus 6 for his Night Goblin units. He gets Man Stabba, which is armor piercing weapon damage 45, bonus versus infantry plus 15. Grinning Loony, which gives him frenzy and causes fear. You can get 15% speed with Strider and Wayfarer. Population surplus +1 for newly captured settlements and immune to contact effects. And he does get ward save +10% and passive ability Guardian for all units except Lords and Heroes. I mean, that's actually pretty nice. And then he can get Smoke Bomb, which is just speed -60% and charge speed -60% and bonus for infantry for nasty stalker units. Or Top Loons, which gets +1 uses for displaying loons for his army, as well as weapon strength for his Night Goblin Fanatic unit. Or the Pointy Gets, which is AP missile damage +1 for all of the Goblin and Night Goblin bow units. Honestly, I would probably get Top Loons or Pointy Gets. That +1 use for displaying loons is really nice, plus that 15% weapon strength for the Fanatics. And then, of course, you get the standard yellow line, standard red line, standard blue. Nothing too crazy. Next is the Savage Orc Great Shaman. And, for a spellcaster, I'm going to kind of put him in the B tier. He has access to the big WOG spells, which are a lot better than the little WOG spells. And since he's a savage, he has 25% physical defense, which makes him a little better at survivability. Still really bad in combat, but he does have that better survivability. As a savage orc, he does get that 25% physical resistance, as well as the frenzy built into him, and savage charms, which is physical resistance +10% for all allies in range. He does start off with the Gaze of Mork, which is another fireball spell, and Brainbuster, which is a explosion magic, which I really like. He does start off with very good offensive spells. He doesn't start off with a mount, but he will get a War Boar and a Wyvern. And then for options, he has Paint the Boys, which is leadership +6 for orc infantry units, and physical resistance +10 for orc infantry units. Obviously, that stacks really well with already people who are savages. Paint the Boys, which is speed +10% for the orc boar units, and physical resistance +10 for those orc boar units. You got Paint the Beasts, which is physical resistance +10% for trolls, giants, rogue idols, Ragnarok spires, feral hydras, and feral wyvern units, and spell resistance +15% for all of them. It's honestly, you could go with either option and be fine. Maybe a little less on Paint the Boars, but the speed is really nice to have on him. He also gets one of the boys, which is melee attack +5 and weapon strength +10%. Superstitious Savages, which is AP +3 for Savage Orc and Savage Orc Rider units. Melee defense +5 for Savage Orc and Savage Orc Rider units. Charge bonus +5 for those savages. Trans-Addled Buffoon, which is figure loss reduction -25%, speed +10%, and melee defense +5. And the Great Green, which is a Winds of Magic cost -10% for big WOG spells. Ability Mumble Jumble Chant, which makes it so he can't move, but then everybody within range gets weapon damage 25%, AP 25%, melee attack 24, and leadership +16 for everybody in range, and Winds of Magic Reserve capacity +5. Like I say, he does start off with the Gaze of Mork, which when that's upgraded, it just increases the damage. Fairly cheap spell, I really like it. Has the ability for Power of the Wog, already charged +8% when casting. Frame Burster, and when that's upgraded, greater armor piercing explosion damage. Fists of Gork, which is magical attacks, melee defense +24, melee attack +24 for one person. Of course, there's no more charging for that, sadly. And Earbutt upgraded, which is just a breath spell. When it's upgraded, it increases the damage. He has a Here We Go, which is just melee attack +40 for everybody. No overcasting for that, sadly. And the Foot of Gork, which is explosion. Although, I do kind of consider it a bombardment because of the animation, but that's just me. And when you have, it's also kind of an expensive spell. Just keep that in mind. It's 26 for overcasting, but it does increase explosion damage and greater armor piercing. And then he has a standard red line and standard blue line. A really fun character, high survivability. I definitely recommend recruiting him for a caster lord, anyways. Next, we have the Great Green Prophet Wozag himself. He is the first legendary lord that's on this list, and he is a spellcaster. He's basically the savage shaman, but just better in every way. I wouldn't necessarily put him at A tier because I really value melee lords over magic lords in your armies, because if they get sniped early on, you're kind of screwed. Wozag does have really great survivability, except he doesn't have good assaulting stats, I should say, but he's kind of a pain to kill. Well, probably a high B tier, maybe a low A tier in all honesty. Your preference. But pretty much for Wozag, he is a savage orc, so he does get frenzy, which is pretty nice. He has Wozag's Revenge, which is missed cast chance plus 100%, which affects everybody in range, the entire map. So he's an anti-spellcaster spellcaster. He does get that physical resistance plus 25% as well. And Effigy of Get, which is a direct damage spell which causes damage to combatants, strong characters, same combatants. Which is really nice to have because they can't move, so they can run away all willy nilly. And for his personal trait, his recruitment cost minus 50% for savage orc units. Charge bonus plus 20%. Plus 20, sorry, for savage orc units. Physical resistance plus 15% for savage orc units, which does stack on what they have already. And army ability Wozag's Wog. It is basically the same. The only difference is I believe that plus 20% physical resistance. I think the melee attack, armor piercing, weapon damage are all the same for the other Wogs. He doesn't start off with a mount, but he will get a boar that he named Spleen Rippa. He does get unique scrap upgrades for Idle Gork for savage orc units as well. Rumble Jumble Champ, which we saw in the other person. And Paint the Boss, which is 10% physical resistance. Has the same exact thing as the other great shamans. I'm just going to kind of hover over it really quick. The only difference is he can get all three, which is really nice. He does get the Real Savage Boys, which is melee attack plus 8 for savage units. Charge bonus was 12 for savage units. Gork and Mork, which is a cooldown on big Wog and low Wog spells for all characters, which is very nice. Enables magical attacks for his entire army and strips enemies of any spell resistance they may have for enemy armies in region. So he's actually a really good counter to demonic armies, weirdly enough. Speed plus 25%, melee defense plus 15, attribute perfect figure, so he can just keep running forever. Titanic Beat, which is a Winds of Magic cost minus 6 for Foot of Gork, and Winds of Magic cost minus 9 for Foot of Gork upgraded. And everything after that is the exact same as a normal Savage Orc Shaman, so standard spell tree, standard red, standard blue. For his items, he does get Baleful Mask, which is upkeep minus 10% for the Lord's army. Enemy hero's action sex chance minus 20%, melee defense plus 8, and Bound Spell Vindictive Glare, which is just Fireball for the goblins. Squiggly Beast, which is a hero capacity plus 1 for shamans, corruption minus 5 for local province, hero recruit rank plus 5 for shamans, another physical resistance plus 5%, and passive ability Squiggly Beast, which is just power recharge plus 60. And then he gets a Bonewood Staff, which is income for post-battle loot plus 10%, magic item drop chance from battle plus 5%, melee attack plus 6, enables magical attacks, spell resistance plus 15%, miscast base chance minus 20%, and then he gets a passive ability with this, which is just charge bonus plus 20%, and melee attack plus 12 for everybody when casting. He's a really good support lord. Really tanky, but doesn't really have a lot of melee attack or weapon strength, so just keep that in mind. If he does go into combat, he can handle himself fine. He just won't do damage in return. Next is the Orc War Boss. The best way I can compare him is he's like an Empire general, but a lot slower, but really good at fighting. He wants to be in the middle of battle, and he take hits like a champ. Uh, just really expensive though compared to the goblins. That's his only downgrade. And in all honesty, I would probably put him at B tier. He's pretty good, just really slow, which he has the tankiness to do it. I argue actually put him at A tier, but that's only if you build him a certain way. He's just a very good generic lord. But like for instance, he gets pretty high armor. We're gonna try to ignore his traits here really quickly we can. So he gets silver shields, which is missile block chance plus 55%, and as well as really good AP. Off the bat, that's pretty good. I mean, even his default stats, and this guy is level 1, mind you, he stands out pretty good. He doesn't start off with a mount though, but he can get a war boar or a wyvern. I kind of will keep them in a war boar because I mean the wyverns are nice to have because he gets that poison attack as well. But I feel like he kind of serves his army better being on the war. My personal opinion. Uh, he can choose between big ed trophies, which is the bonus versus large plus 15, or the small ed trophies, which is bonus versus infantry plus 15. Wait, large, yeah, large and infantry. So you can kind of choose. Honestly, either or is not a bad choice. But he gets back on your feet. You're not dead till I says you are. Casualty replenishment rate plus 5 for orc units and figure loss reduction minus 10 for his army. Uh, he does get effect duration for plus 20% for get back ear and smash them faster. Effect range plus 20% and cooldown minus 30% for them as well. He has get the boys, which recruitment costs minus 20% for his army. Recruit rank plus 1 and local recruitment capacity plus 1. He has called the Wog, which is speed plus 10% for orc infantry units, charge bonus plus 7 for orc infantry units. And the biggest axe, which is just melee attack plus 4 and weapon armor piercing damage plus 50. Standard yellow line, nothing too crazy here. And then he has a standard red line, standard blue line. Next is Aztag the Slaughter. He is both I would say like a melee and a magic lord. Uh, the problem is he's kind of like jack of all trades, but he's not particularly good at anything. I don't really like his campaign, and I feel like he struggles in battle anyways, even though he has kind of big mount and actually halfway decent magic. He has access to Lore of Death magic, which I would probably rather him have access to Orc and Mork magic because kind of a little better. But I'm gonna kind of throw him at C tier. He's a legendary lord. I just don't think he's threatening in any way, shape, or form. I mean, like overall, he does get pretty decent stats with armor piercing. He does start off with the aspect of Dread Knight, which is just a magical attacks, leadership plus 8, and cause fear and terror. Spirit Leech, which is always good. I do like Spirit Leech. For his traits, he has access to Lore Death Magic, immune to Psychology, and come from sacking settlements plus 25%, and his Wog, which is just the only differences can cause fear and cause terror for everybody. So he does get a unique wyvern called the Skull Muncher, which they're okay. But he doesn't start off with a mount for a while, so pretty much from the 14 ranks on, he's kind of a end cushion. He does get wizardly weapons, which are a unique scrap upgrade for his orc boys, arrow boys, and big guns. He has get on with it, which is a passive with the leadership plus 8 for everybody in range. Imbued by madness, which is upkeep minus 25% for all orc boys, big guns, savage orc infantry, and cav units, and frenzy for all of them as well. Earth shaking orders. Melee defense plus 8 for pretty much all orc infantry and cav units, and speed plus 12%, and base missile damage plus 15% for everybody. Hero capacity plus 1 for the shamans, and hero recruit rank plus 4 for the shamans in all provinces. That orky enough, which is Vanguard deployment for all orc boys, big guns, and savage orc infantry and cav units, which that's actually pretty good. Attrition plus 15% when under siege. enemies' armies in local region, and chance of intercepting an army using tunneling. That's okay. He does get melee attack +8 and charge +20. Darkest Nimbus, which is he does get passive regen, magic reserve, winds of magic power reserve capacity +15, and bound spell Wind of Death, which he only has one use of that, but good spell. He does get a normal yellow line. He also gets the standard Lore of Death line, so he gets Spirit Leech and Spirit Leech upgrade, which is just extended cast range. Life Leeching, which is reserves per second when casting. Aspects of Dread Knight. When you overcast that, it's just an added area effect and extended duration. Soul Blight, which is base weapon damage -25%, AP weapon damage -25%, and armor -30 for everybody in range. And when it's overclocked, it just extends the effect. I kind of prefer just doing it to 6. I mean, doubling it to me, not really. Spell Doom and Darkness, which is leadership -16, and when it's upgraded, it's just an added area effect for everybody. That I would say is definitely worth the overcasting. I keep saying overclocking. I don't know why. Yeah, overclock your spells, guys. Come on, download more RAM. The Fate Abaja, which is a direct damage spell for units with 25 or more entities, so it's more of an anti-unit spell, damage spell. And when it's overcasted, actually, sorry, it's not overcasted. Purple Sonic Xerxes, which is just a vortex. You can't overcast this one. It's just extended effect duration. And then he gets a standard red line, standard blue line. And then for his items, he gets the Crown of Sorcery, which is just control +5, into flanking, miscast base chance -25%, and Gaze in the Gash, which is just fireball magic, but he gets 3 uses of that. Yeah, he gets his Aztag's Ard Armor, which is armor +15, ward save +15%, wound recovery time -1 turn, melee defense +6, physical resistance +15, and then his Ard Armor ability, which is armor +30 and melee defense +4. So he becomes really tanky after this. I mean, it does, boost him up. I just don't think he's that good though. Then he gets the Slaga's Slashes. Yep, I said that right the first time. Income from post-battle loot +25%, recruitment cost -10% for his army, melee attack +8, weapon strength +15%, and then passive melee attack +8 and leadership +4 for all. So he's a pretty good support lord, I would say. Like I said, he does a little bit of everything. Not particularly great at everything. Next is Gorbad, and this is kind of a hard one for me because I kind of like the idea of him, but I don't think he's really that good. He's, I would say, a better support lord than Aztag, and he has okay melee and defense stats. Doesn't have the magic. I'm gonna put him at C tier. He could probably belong to a high D tier, but I'm gonna put him in C tier because he can kind of do everything that he's supposed to fairly okay. Barely though, I'd say barely. But for Mr. Gorbad, he does have pretty decent stats. High armor, high leadership, AP weapon damage. He has Orcs Are the Best, which is base weapon damage +50%, armor piercing weapon damage +50%, and melee attack +24 for the lucky individual in his. He has the Great Leader, which is upkeep -10% for all units in his army, leadership aura size +100%. The Orcs Are the Best spell, and Gorbad's Wog, which is just I'd say immune psychology. Maybe it's a longer. I don't. The standard Wog doesn't look different for me here. He starts off on foot, but he does get another boar named Narla. Big Banner Boys, a unique scrap upgrade for Orc Boys, Big Guns, Orc Boar Boys, and Orc Boar Boys. Big Guns, I know I just slaughtered that. It's a mouthful. You can get the Big Head trophies or the Small Head trophies, which is just bonus versus large or infantry. The Biggest Wog, which is just a reputation gain per turn +3. Followers of the Plan, which is just more tactic slots and plan tactic durations. He has Ear to Plan, which is a character experience gain +10% for all characters faction wide. Research rate +15. Ability the boss has a plan. Whatever. Melee defense plus 24, leadership plus 8, and expert charge defense for that lucky orc. He has boys to the front, which is melee attack plus 3 for melee infantry units. For all armies faction wide, melee defense plus 3 for melee infantry units, all faction wide. And weapon strength plus 10% for all melee infantry units for all armies faction wide, so he can really just juice everybody up. Shooters to the back, missile strength plus 10% for the Lord's army, ammunition plus 10% for the Lord's army, passive ability dig in for ranged units, which is range plus 40%, missile resistance plus 15%, expert charge defense when not moving. I will say it's kind of weird that this is all faction wide, and this isn't faction wide. That's just kind of weird. Whatever. Riders on the flanks, Strider for cavalry units rank 7 and above. Speed plus 10% for all cav units for his army, and charge bonus plus 15% for cav units for his army. He has the let go to Wog, which is a figure loss reduction minus 33% for his army, upkeep minus 15% for Wog mob units for his army, and passability frenzy for mob Wog units. He gets a standard yellow line, standard red line, standard blue line. For his quest, he only has more Glore, the Mangler, which is melee attack plus 10, enables magical attacks. His ability, which is base weapon damage plus 75%, AP plus 75%, charge speed 25, and charge 20%, and causes fear. Okay, next is Skarsnik, who is a legendary Lord Goblin. Very positive, we all know where I'm gonna throw him. That's in D tier. I think goblins are completely useless. Honestly, they should be their own faction. Now let me put you in there. I think the goblins should be just separate from the Greenskins. They're just trash. He's just trash. He dies early in the game. He can't put up a fight. He just taunts. That's all he does. But anyways, for his stats, I mean, he gets poison attack, I guess. Bonus versus large and armor piercing. Yeah, it actually gets a decent charge bonus. Kind of weird. Does get a cool squig mount. Actually, does get a unique banner, which unbreakable for a goblin unit. I guess that makes him slightly better. I guess. I don't even think you're on that mount. No, yeah, you are not on the squig mount. So his speed's at 35. So he doesn't get a mount, which is even better. A squishy lord doesn't get a mount. There's no reason to defend this guy, but he starts off with Tricksy Trash, speed plus 25%, unspellable and stalk effects for everybody. He has a charge defense versus large. I don't know why you would have this guy defend himself against Carl. Like, oh my god, he's gonna die in one hit. He does get Vanguard deploy, encourage, charge reflection, I guess. Whatever. Warlord crack 8 peaks, which is enables stalking stance for his army. More of an ambushing kind of faction. Leadership plus 8 for Night Goblin units. Melee defense plus 4 for Night Goblin unit for his army. And armor ability Skarsnik's Wag, which I believe the only difference is the armor piercing missile damage plus 50% and base missile damage plus 50%. And immune to psychology. He gets the Fungus Flasks, which is a unique scrap upgrade for Night Goblin units. Dripping Tips, which enables Skarsnik's Death Juice attacks, which is basically a poison that also does damage over time as well. Not a whole lot of damage. I guess throw him into a blob of infantry, he might do something. Ambusher, ambush success chance plus 50%, melee attack plus 4 during ambushes. Nastier Squigs, melee attack plus 8 for Squig units, charge bonus plus 10 for Squig units. Army. Better Night Sneaking, melee attack plus 6 for Night Goblin units, melee defense plus 6 for Night Goblin units. Spite of the Bad Moon, which is just base weapon damage plus 25%, AP plus 25%, and bonus versus large plus 16 for all allies. Fermented Fungus, which is melee defense minus 24 and rampage for 1 lucky person and has 3 uses. Smart Hiding, speed plus 15, physical resistance plus 15, attribute stalk, which AI cheats. Under bosses, steal 25% of the experience earned by other lords. Unlocks hero recruitment goblin big boss for all provinces. Unlock hero recruitment night goblin shaman for all provinces. Coffin up, which is post battle chance of stealing magic items plus 30%, and magic item drop chance for battle plus 30%. So he likes to steal stuff. And in backstairs tactics, AP weapon damage plus 6 during ambushes, and leadership plus 10. Standard yellow line, standard red line, standard blue line. First quest, he does get Skarsnik's Prodder, which is control plus 3 for all provinces. Income from post battle loot plus 10%. Melee attack plus 6. Enables magical attacks, weapon strength plus 10, and Skarsnik's Prodder, which is 2 uses, which is just basically fireball. Oh man, I'm actually really tempted to just put this guy in trash tier. We might. You know what? You're trash. I don't care what people say. You're trash. You're trash. I'm changing it. Next is the true orc big one, and that is Grom the Paunch. Honestly, he's an A tier legendary lord. He's very fast, very annoying to kill, and very tanky. Plus, I love his model. He is such a good model. It is not disturbing in any way, shape, or form. But pretty much his details are, he does start off with his, I would personally call it a chariot. Of course, you can't see it. It's more of a wagon, but he doesn't care about that. But, you know, he had very high speeds, bonus for infantry and AP, 90 charge. He has passive regeneration already. He is the Great Un, which is leadership plus 8 for goblin units in his army, physical resistance for those goblin units. And Grom's Wog, which is a heal, which affects everybody. Which I would say that's kind of wasted on the goblins. That is probably pretty good for the orcs. And then he has a starving Gobo, which is just when he does his recipes, he gets more stats overall. So I'm just gonna kind of go over these slowly. Pretty good, I would say. I mean, it's just nasty. But he does get less lucky banners for chariot and pump wagon units. Goblin Tide, so armor plus 10 for goblin units, melee attack plus 4 for goblin units. I'm pretty positive this guy eats his goblins. His great MSC, leadership plus 9 for goblin units, leadership oral size plus 75%. A culinary curmudgeon, whatever, growth plus 15% for all provinces, and casualty replenishment rate plus 5 for the Lord's army. Gargantuan Glutton, hit points plus 8%, physical resistance 8%. Chariot races, armor plus 10 for the chariots and pump wagons, speed plus 12% for those chariots and pump wagons, and perfect vigor for those chariots and pump wagons for his army. Boistering Shakedown, income for post battle loot plus 20%, income from sacking settlements plus 15%, and magic item drop chance for battle 15%. Roll him over causes rattled effects, reducing combat ability, which is just melee attack minus 8 and melee defense minus 10, and charge bonus plus %. Which is that's for him. So he gets a charge bonus of 135. This guy is gonna hit you like a freight train. Down to size, which is a bonus versus large plus 7 for goblin units, and melee attack plus 6 for goblin units, which also stacks right here as well. Ed coming back, which is enemy leadership minus 7 for elven units for the local region, and wound recovery time minus 2 turns, which I believe means he can come back in a turn, or maybe 2 turns, something like that. Standard yellow line, standard red line, standard blue line. And he gets a lucky banner, which is a post battle chance of stealing a magic item plus 10%, and ward save plus 10%. Melee defense plus 1. How lucky for his Lord's army. Like that's magic item drop chance from battle plus 20%, and lucky banner, which is damage resistance plus 40, melee attack plus 24 for 25 seconds. And Axe of Grom, which is growth plus 5 for all provinces, including himself. AP weapon damage plus 40, once versus infantry plus 15, and the Axe of Grom, which is sundered armor, base weapon damage plus 50%, and AP plus 50%. pretty much when everything stacks together, he's gonna literally hit you like a freight train. He's such a fun character to play as. Next is Grimgor Ironhide, and uh, this guy is a one-man army. Late game, he can become unbreakable. If you build him a certain way, he's pretty much unkillable. He has a mini nuke he uses on himself. Yeah, he is just a detriment. He's kind of not like Carl, where Carl can become one man early, pretty early. Pete kind of takes a little bit more time, but once he reaches that stage, good luck killing him, and especially if the AI, or if you're smart enough to put passive regen on him, you're not gonna take this man down. But I have been playing this guy because this is like the one of like two Greenskin factions I will actually play. I took all of his stuff off, so he's very heavily armored. Uh, I do have him as unbreakable. That is normal for him. He is a little bit slow. He does get him out. High melee attack, about mediocre melee defense. Very high weapon strength with armor piercing and pretty decent charge. Uh, he does get. He started off with your next, which is a hex, which is speed minus 25. Wow, 25. Where did I get that from? Speed minus 45%, melee attack minus 24, and melee defense minus 40 for 24 seconds, which that can only be applied to a hero or lord. But for his trait, he does replenish 10% campaign movement speed range after winning a battle. He causes fear for his black orc units. Gets that ability next, and he gets Grimgor's Wog, which replaces the normal Wog. Which the only differences I could tell was he gets 25% base weapon damage and 25% more armor piercing damage. I believe the standard is 25%. But he does get Immortal's Armor, which is just a unique upgrade for the Black Orc units. He gets a Heroic Killing Blow, Best of the Best, which is a hero capacity +2 for the Black Orc big bosses, as well as a passive, which is melee defense +10 and damage resistance +10% for when an enemy lord or heroes is in range of him. Black Orc Wrecking Ball, which is AP weapon damage +9 for Black Orc units, as well as charge +12 for those Orc units. Vigor and Ardor, leadership +8 for Orc Big Guns and Savage Orc Big Gun units, and weapon strength +10 for Orc Big Guns and Savage Orc Big Gun units, which includes the Orc Boys as well. Imposing Presence causes fear, causes terror. From the front, hit points +15%, speed +10%, and he gets Frenzy. Thirst for Battle replenishes an additional 15% campaign movement range after winning a battle, so kind of like a little bit of a corn. Standard, yellow line, standard, red line, standard, blue line. The only difference is he does get unbreakable in this line. I believe that's the only difference he gets. And then for his items, he gets a Get Snick, which has income for post battle loot +10%, corruption -5, recruitment cost -10, melee attack +6, enables magical attacks, bonus versus large +12, and his ability, which is base weapon damage +50%, or AP weapon damage +50%, and melee attack +24. Which pretty much he's already at 72, so he's pretty much hitting his shots every time. Bloodforged Armor, which is armor +10, ward save +15%. Enemy hero action assess chance -10%, wound recovery time -1 turn, melee defense +6, and ability, which is the Bloodforged Armor, which is armor +30, and he will explode, which is 0. It says 0% AP, but I think it's 16 magic. That does have a cooldown of 30 seconds, but you know, you can kind of spam that a while. It doesn't hurt friendly troops. Next is the heroes section of the video, and the first one we're going to look at is the Night Goblin Big Boss. Honestly, kind of trash. There's really no reason to recruit him. I mean, he doesn't start off with a mount, but he can get a Great Cave Squig, Deadly Schemer, which is campaign movements range +20% when not embedded. Hero self-defense +10% chance of wounding aggressors, and hero action success chance +10%. Dark Deeds chance of intercepting an army when incorporating a lord, and ambush defense chance +10% when he's in an army. He gets Empowering Shrooms, which is melee attack plus 24, leadership plus 16, and stops rampaging for all units as a squig, which, it's pretty okay. I don't really have an issue with it, though. He has Release the Squigs, attribute Vanguard deployment for Squig Herd and Colossal Squig units, and passive ability Loner for Squig Herd and those Colossals as well, which is speed plus 15%, leadership plus 12. When no friendly units are in range, in ability range. It's just ability range. I don't know what that really means. Crazy is the Squigs, Frenzy for those Squid Hoppers and Squig Mangler units, and causes fear for them as well, which is pretty nice to have. Herder, recruit rank +1 for Squig Herd units, and upkeep -5% for all Squig units. Tricksty, plus 50% effect duration for Empowering Shrooms, and ability +3 uses for Squig Thinking, which summons a Squig Herd unit 4 times. Standard yellow line, he does get increased mobility, stimulate growth, damage walls, wound, hinder replenishment, and is a specialist. He's okay as support. He's definitely not a fighter, though. He does get some attacks. I really wouldn't recruit this guy. Next is the Goblin Big Boss. I kind of find him to be a little bit better, but not by much, and that's just kind of mainly because he gets some extra skills that the regular Night Goblin doesn't get for some odd reason. Still D tier though. Goblins are useless. Don't care. But he does not start off with a mount, but he gets a giant wolf and a giant spider. He does get Stalker, which is just campaign line of sight, Ambusher, Vanguard deployed, the Nasty Stalker, which is weapon strength plus 10%, and Low Blow, which is base weapon damage plus 30, bonus plus 5. He can get Gab Sticker, which is able Sundering tax, which is just -30 armor. Glory Steal, which is speed plus 15%. Passive ability Opportunist Murder, which is AP plus 4, 40%. Melee attack plus 10 when he's recharging. And then he gets Devastating Flaker on top of that as well. And first rule of stabbing, which enables disruption attack, silences enemies, and reduces physical resistance. Which I personally kind of find that pretty useful, especially if you're trying to Lord Snipe somebody, like kind of use them as like a skirmisher hero. The Barking Pack, which is passive ability for the Opportunist Murder for them, Devastating Flanker for the Wolf units, which I still really find them useless even after these buffs, in my opinion. Goblin Thinking, passive ability Dig In for Goblin Artillery units, and Snipe for Goblin Artillery units. So plus 40% range, missile resistance, plus 15%, and expert charge defense when not moving. And then Ramming Speed, which is passive ability for the Opportunist Murder for the Goblin Chariots, and Unyielding Assault for Goblin Chariots. Just basically means their attack can't be reduced in battle. I just kind of find that's a little bit more useful for my current build, but he gets a standard yellow line. And for the blue line, he gets Scavenge, which is just increased income for post-battle loot, Defense Corruption, Damage Walls, Assassinate, Black Army, and Specialist. I pretty much just, and he does get a Slippery right there, which is just standard. I do just find him a little better than the Night Goblin Big Boss. Not by much, but he is a little better. I mean, you could potentially get more utility out of him, but that could be arguable. Next is just your run-of-the-mill Orc Shaman. Not crazy spellcaster, since he's an Orc, he has a little bit better melee stats, and he's using the big Wog spells, which I like a little bit more. I'm gonna throw him in C tier. Does exactly what he needs to. He's not too crazy of a difference. For his stats, like I said, fairly decent stats for a caster, I suppose. He does start off with the Gaze of Mork, which is just fireballs. He can get a War Boar later on, but he does start off with a mount, so keep an eye out for that. He has one of the boys, which is melee attack plus 5, weapon strength plus 10%. Don't Look Him in the Eye, which is a hero action cost minus 10%, and hero action success chance plus 5%. And the Great Green, which is Wind of Magic cost minus 10% for big Wog spells. Ability Mumbo Jumbo Chant. And Wind of Magic Power Reserve plus 5. You can get Brutal Blows, which is spell intensity plus 33% for Fist of Mork, and AP weapon damage plus 50. Thick Skull, spell intensity for the air butt upgraded. and armor plus 20, or Big Ideas, which is a spell intensity for plus 33% for Brain Burster, as well as the upgrade variant and targeting range plus 25% for spells. Honestly, I would probably go with this one just because the targeting is a longer casting range for spells. Standard big wog spells. Not going to go over them again because we just kind of did in this video if you guys were watching. He does get scouting, which is just a magic item drop chance at additional 5%. Spread control, steel tech, wound, hinder replenishment, and specialist. I would say the Savage Orc Shaman's just better because he has better defense stats, in my opinion. That's why he's kind of B tier and Shaman's up there. But I mean, Shaman's also a Lord. I kind of just wish there was a regular Shaman variant. That'll probably just outclass him to be fair. Yeah, so this is pretty much just like the Lil Wog Shaman casters. He does get extra Sneaky Stabba, which is spell intensity plus 33% for Sneaky Stabba, and Stalk. Spore Bath, 33% spell intensity for Itchy Nuisance, which actually might be pretty good, I think. And immune to contact effects. Instrument of Gork, which is Gork will fix it for spell intensity 33%, and melee defense plus 24. He does get Mad Cat Mushrooms, which is decreased cooldown. Shotted Strike, which is stalk during ambushes, hero success chance plus 5%, and Winds of Magic cost minus 10% for little Wog spells. Winds of Magic, which are plus 5. And he gets the standard little Wog spell line, just like the Lord variant. He does get scouting, spread control, steel attack, wound, and replenishment, and specialist. Whoopsies, don't worry, you are still in the same spot, buddy. Next is a legendary hero called Snaga, who is a goblin. Actually, no, honestly, he's actually not half bad with goblins so far. As far as goblins go, I'm gonna throw him C tier. I think he's the only legendary hero in the entire Greenskin roster, which kind of sucks. But the reason why I put him in C tier, not in D tier or trash like the others, is he does get a weapon strength plus 10%, base weapon damage plus 30, bonus for infantry plus 5. He has a thing called Red Venom, which is just best I can say is a juiced up version of the poison effect. So it's speed minus 20%, AP missile minus 20%, base missile minus 20%, base weapon minus 20%, and armor piercing minus 20%. And he gets weapon AP plus 50. Jesus. He has Spiderweb attack, which is bonus for infantry plus 15. And then the ability, which is cannot use or cannot move for 2 uses. Undulating Cry, which is recruit rank plus 3 for Spider and Spider Rider units. For his army, recruitment cost minus 25% for the Spider and Spider Rider units. Local recruitment duration minus 1 turn for Spider and Spider Rider units. So that includes the Mama Spiders. Spider's Chosen, ability inventory of hatchlings upgraded. So get to summon a unit of Spider hatchlings. And they do not degrade now. Before they just degraded. Does get that standard. So pretty much you get free 5 hatchlings in a match, which they're not that great of a unit, but hey, grade, that's a big plus. He gets a ward save plus 10% and perfect vigor. And then ambush success chance plus 20% for the army, and enabling stalking stance for his hero army as well, with chance of ambushing the enemy army when this army attacks. Ambush success chance minus 15. Kind of weird. Extra strong venom, unbreakable for Spider and Spider Rider units at rank 7 and above, leadership plus 5 for them as well. Grim trophies, melee defense plus 3 for spiders, physical resistance 5% for all spiders. Melee attack plus 3 for spiders, and weapon strength plus 5% for spiders. Attribute snipe for forest goblin spider rider units, causes fear when they're rank 7 and above, and stalk for them as well. Wirely frame, passive ability opportunist murder for the goblin rider units, and speed plus 10 for him and spider riders. Digestive Venom, casualty replenishment rate plus 10% for spiders. And passive ability Feeding Frenzy, so they can replenish when in combat for all the spiders. And standard yellow line, he gets training, cleanse corruption, assault garrison, assassinate, block army, and specialist. He does get 2 unique equipment: the Fang Spike, which is melee attack plus 5, AP plus 30. Ability Fang Spike, base weapon damage plus 50%, AP plus 50%, and charge bonus plus 40% in stock. And then the Sting of Snaga, which is assassinate additional 10% chance, hero self defense chance plus 20%, ambush success chance plus 10, and then he has 3 magic missile uses out of it. It's just a fun character. If you want to go for like a spider only build, you know, really that up. And then he also gets an upkeep of minus 40% for spider units in his army, and of course he has the summons of the hatchling. Okay, next is the Black Orc Big Boss. I hope I said that right. A tier. You honestly, if you can hero stack these guys are so hard to kill. I could say they could go toe to toe with actually a lot of legendary lords in this game. They're just super strong. They don't start out with a mount. Actually, let me make sure. Equipment. Boop boop boop. No equipment for you. Armor 130 with silver shields. Really high AP. The entire stat lineup, scary as hell. Does start off with deadly assault. Kind of weird. But anyways, he does not start off with a mount, but you can put him on War Boar. Honestly, he performs good either way. He can cause fear, armed to the teeth, which is just AP weapon damage plus 60, and unyielding assault, which means his melee attack can never be reduced. He is boss of the field, which is just effect duration plus 20 for get back here, range and cooldown for it. Heroic killing blow, which is just base weapon damage plus 50 and AP plus 50%. 1 orc army, assault garrison plus 15% casualties. Assault units additional 10% casualties. Hero actions X 20. Honestly, I would just put heroic killing blow on. He wants to fight lords, let him fight lords and heroes. Arden Ard, attribute 360 degree missile block, armor plus 20. Runt Chopper splash attack power plus 50%, bonus versus infantry plus 30, or Git Smasher, which is bonus versus large plus 20, attribute charge flexion and expert charge defense. Honestly, this is really good, but I don't think he needs it because he's not a giant target. So if you run an army with like both of these together, it's really he does get a standard yellow line as well. Nothing too crazy, and he gets training, spread control, assault garrison wound, assault units, and special. And then you might have seen these portraits before. I kind of put these guys separate because they are how can I best? They are research units. They are research lords, and we can kind of look at them really quick. We got Ragnick Spiderclaw, and his whole shtick is spiders. The Goblin Great Shaman. Pretty much there's no difference at all, at least that I could see. He still gets locked out of each thing. He is considered, I would consider him a legendary lord. I believe he's immortal. Yeah, he's immortal. But kind of his trait, and that's like really the only thing that makes him special. He has melee attack plus 10 for spiders. Ragnarok eggs, which summons hatchlings, but they do degrade over time. Enemy leadership minus 5 for local region. Charge defense plus 10 for spiders, and Vanguard deploy for during forest battles. Not too crazy of a difference. I still can kind of put him at D tier. If you pair him up with the other spider guy, they can kind of do pretty good because they just synergize with each other pretty well. And the next one is just another orc boss, which let's see if I can't find him really quick. With the Ulak the Orrible, which is a Nartech person. No difference here once again at all. Pretty much his trait is the Orbital, which is, once again, will be wounded instead of killed. Melee attack +5 for Orc infantry units. Speed +10% for Orc boar units. Unit mass +15%. Charge bonus +50% for Orc boar units. And causes fear when fighting against dwarves. And not too crazy. I mean, it's a little bit better, but I wouldn't really say it, puts him up a notch. It's just a kind of a weird thing to keep on there, especially when you want to look at like the tech tree. They're kind of expensive. I think it's like 5,000 gold to recruit them. So kind of weird. I was kind of hoping they would touch him up a little bit more, but it is what it is, I suppose. Next is the Giant River Troll Hag. Like I said that name like he's a magic caster with the Lore of Death, I believe. I kind of have mixed feelings about him. I really feel like he doesn't really have a place with the Lore of Death. It's kind of weird. Uh, but he's an okay melee combatant. I would kind of put him at high of a D tier. There's, at least to me, there's no reason. At least to me, anyways. And the reason why I say that is because one, he's a DLC character. Gotta buy the Grim and the Pawn's for him. But I mean, base stats aren't really that impressive. He's a caster. He does start off with a Swamp Breath, which is just magic missiles. Good versus a single unit. Powerful explosion. He does also get Spirit Leech as well. Generation. Spotter, which it's worth forest spotting, whatever. Overwhelming Odor, which is melee attack -6, effective for all units within a range. Causes fear. Not too crazy. He gets Slimy Shanks, which is hit points +8%, fire resistance 15%. Teach him right, leadership aura +25%, and character aura leadership effect +5. Bag Battering, attacks cause Orbital Smell, which is just a -6 leadership, and weapon strength +10%. Foul Diet, cooldown -50% for Swamp Breath, as well as 3 additional uses. Incoming healing modifier +25%, and a battle healing cap +50. Horrible Smell, +50% effect range for it, and immune to contact effects. Bone Snapper, melee attack +8, melee defense +5, and causes terror. Miasma, spell intensity +50% for Doom and Darkness and Soul Blight. He does get like a standard, a yellow line, of course. It gets hit points here, and Mither, which is speed -60% and charge speed -60% for 3 uses of it. Everything else is pretty standard. He does get Spirit Leech, which we already went through in this video, so nothing too crazy. And then he gets Replenish Troops, Spread Control, Steel Technology, Wound, Assault Units, and Specialist. I mean, he is just kind of an annoying character to fight because he has so much healing and regeneration, but I feel like the Lore of Death really holds him back. I don't know what a better spell would be for him that would make sense. Maybe a little bit like switch up a little Nurgle magic maybe would make sense, but I don't know. Just kind of a weird character overall. Not really impressed by him. I mean, if you spam them, they're kind of a threat, but eh. But anyways, that's my final roster of the Greenskins Hero and Lords. Of course, if you guys think that any character should go in a different spot, please let me know in the comments below. I love to discuss that. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for notification. We'll go live, upload a video, or do any other shenanigans. Of course, hit the bell to actually get notified of said shenanigans on